Alright, let's get the music down to a comfortable level. Now, if you are in any part of Europe, you are more than free to join us for the coffee hour. Get yourself a cup of joe, but I wouldn't recommend it. How are you guys doing? Welcome to episode number 2 of the coffee hour. This week, we're going to be going into the loved section. Now, if you're familiar at least with last episode, or me in general, I'm currently not at home. So if things are a little bit wonky, I apologize in advance. I'm currently in my girlfriend's old room. We're up in Northern California visiting her family, and this room has turned into a yarn storage... yarn storage for her mom. This is indeed not coffee. I'm both doing the right thing as well as committing a mortal sin. I have decided to cut out caffeine for the week. But that does mean that during coffee hour, I will be enjoying an Imperial Stout instead of coffee. So I hope that that is a solid compromise there. Again, this week's topic is going to be loved section. If you're a little bit unfamiliar with the love section, no worries. I'm going to be joined by both Pishifat, who you're probably familiar with as a mapper, but not only that, he also does a ton of just community contribution. And on the other end, we're going to have Ephemeral, who's going to be on this side of me. You know, he's on the Osu team. He actually spearheaded the idea of the loved section and has been with it along the way. So even though I will personally be a little bit out of my depth, they will... they will more than keep me afloat during the coming hour. I know, guys, I'm terribly sorry. Let me actually get them on the line. Hello, Mr. Ephemeral. Hello, Mr. Pishy. Are you guys present?
Yes, I am. Hello.
Ooh.
Yes, sir.
Hello. All right, on this side we have Mr. Pishifat. Can we get your, please, your signature?
My signature. Hello there.
All right, there we go.
Hi.
If people are a little bit unfamiliar with who you are and what you do, what is it generally that you spend most time on? Outside of, you know, you have a ton of YouTube videos on mapping. If you were to want to check that out, that's below him. I certainly recommend it. But a little introduction.
Right. So, my name is pishifat. I've been like a mapper for about 4 years now. I don't really play the game much. I'm not much of a competitive guy in that regard, but I don't know. I do a lot of mapping and a lot of mapping videos, as Happy Stick just said, which are on YouTube, and yeah, I do some other like beating up nomination stuff, which we don't need to go over. But yeah,
right,
mapping stuff.
You're certainly very well rounded when it comes to anything mapping. I mean, you were the first person outside of Ephemeral that came to mind when I had the idea of doing a section on, or an episode on the loved section. So I'm really happy to have you on. Thank you. Ephemeral is gonna be the sound only to my, well, right, I suppose. Ephemeral, how's it going?
Pretty good, man. How's it going for you?
Good, good. What's the time actually for you? Because you're Australian, so it was a little bit wonky for you in terms of the timing.
It was, yeah. It's currently 9:03 AM and I haven't slept. I'm nocturnal.
Nice.
That's nearly as bad as Peppy last time when he came on. It was 8 in the morning on a Saturday, but he has actually slept 9 AM. Haven't slept. All right. So if it suddenly goes silent on that side of the screen, we know why. No blame there. What do you actually, because you're obviously part of the Osu team, you spearheaded the loved section and then followed through it, or well, followed it and was involved in all the changes throughout the past, I think 9 months it's been, right?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, alright. Guys in chat, let me know really quick how the actual sound levels are for the three of us so I can adjust it before we really get into talking. Now if you're a little
testing 1 2 3.
Can we get the same from you, Ephemeral?
Tell me I'm gorgeous, friends.
Close enough, close enough. Right, so a short introduction into the loved section from... We'll go with Ephemeral into what it actually was initially, and how it's changed over the months. I think it's, like I said, it's been close to a year at this point.
It's been a while, yeah. It's been a long while.
So can you give us a brief history?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a bit of a story, so you might want to pull up a chair.
I got my beer, I got my chair. I think we're all set.
Got your Imperial Stout. It's definitely not coffee. Can have a word with you after that. Naughty boy. To start with, Loved was...
I like it. Good start. Good start.
It was something that came up a fair bit internally. We've been floating around an idea. Well, we've been floating around an idea for years at that point. Regarding getting SP or star priority, as it were, to kind of like get maps into a category that wasn't ranked but wasn't the graveyard.
Right, and the thought process behind that was to make sure that Kudosu actually had a use, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, because it's currently completely worthless. Let's be honest.
Like, okay,
Fishy can attest to that.
Fishy is cringing inside. I know.
It's like the worst part of modding, because there's just no point to doing any of it like in the long term. Right,
you get like consolation prize Kudosu. All right,
it's
sorry.
It's not even a consolation prize. It's like it's frankly insulting.
You get a stat. That's it.
All right. Okay, so it was to use that a little bit more, and then it went to.
Then it kind of became, oh, while we're doing this, why don't we get all these really cool old maps that don't have scoreboards and give them scoreboards, even though they could never be ranked in the first place?
Right.
And that was kind of the secondary goal of it.
Right. And then it started out with the community voting. How did that shape itself? Why was that the idea versus what it ended up being, which was the star priority and the favorites?
Well, it mainly ended up that way because we really didn't have any how do I put it? We didn't really have much system implementation for it. It's kind of a bit of a chronic deal with us. Right. As things go along, we float ideas and we try things out, and in the end, they're not really supported by much, like structure-wise. No real systems in place for them.
Right.
And so Loved was kind of like, we'll start this off, and it's something we can do manually, the community voting. We can sit down and we can go, okay, here's a bunch of maps. You guys tell us what you want to go in. And we'll go from there, and that kind of like build the category up a bit.
Right. Okay, so the initial idea was to just the community voting was part of it to get the category started, rather than it actually being something that you guys wanted to do for the long term.
Yeah, basically, just to get the whole ball rolling, basically.
Okay, gotcha. What was Pishy on your side, on the mapper side, as well as the modding side? What was your thought process when it initially came out?
Well, when it initially came out, it wasn't like, there wasn't just the community voting. There was like first a big batch of maps that came out on the first day.
Right.
I don't really know how they were chosen, but they were like what Ephemeral said. They were like a bunch of old maps that would have just been lost forever or something if they weren't ever promoted.
Right.
So I thought that was really cool. Then with community voting, I didn't like it quite as much.
Because was it made apparent back then that it was kind of going to be temporary, or was it put forward? That's not my dog, is it? That's someone else's dog. Okay.
I think the mailman's outside. Maybe.
The next batch of community votes is in the mail.
It is, yeah. Wait, what was I even talking about? Dog's gonna stop in like 30 seconds. Just let it go.
It's better than I could have ever hoped for.
He wants to be part of the interview real bad.
Yeah.
No. This is a perfect analogy for how community voting went. Let's be honest. It was
all right. Okay. I like the spin. Good spin on it. Very PR-y. Right.
And their opinions weren't actually having any value because there were just so many people like voting. So everything pretty much, there were 10 maps in each round or whatever, and only like they all rounded out to about 10% votes. So it was kind of, I don't know, like it wasn't
like there were 10 maps to vote for, and it all ended with kind of them having around 10% of the votes.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay. So there was no there
was no supreme map that should be loved because it's like the best or whatever.
How did you guys deal with that on the back end, Ephemeral?
I actually designed the polls to be that way, to be honest.
Oh,
like just straight up. I expected most of them to kind of get around like 10, 12%. And even then, I was kind of like really lax with them.
Right.
Maps, sometimes maps have got 7 or 8% or even 6%. I just put in anyway because I'm like, there's obviously enough support for them. Like, why leave them out? Do you know what I mean?
Right. Because honestly, from a player perspective, and I'm sure that I speak for everyone, the loved section was super hyped because it finally meant that there were so many maps that you could play for something that was worth something, a rank that you couldn't before. Okay, so thought process behind Inception we just went over. What maps on the back end was the love section really intended to promote? Initially.
That's a tricky one. That's a tricky one.
Well, I mean, if we go by what was first added there, probably stuff that was just stuff that was popular and stuff that was having no chance of ever getting ranked. That's what I think. But
first thing that comes to mind is like Graces of Heaven. Is Spro's Graces of Heaven. It's the first thing that comes to my mind.
Yeah.
It's like the quintessential love map.
Okay.
Stuff that's not rankable otherwise.
Right. But still playable. Just stuff that is high quality, has a lot of thought behind it, but otherwise would have no chance of having a scoreboard. Would really be the quintessential thing as to what was intended for?
Yeah, essentially.
Okay. And from the community voting, after how many months, it eventually went to the favorites and the star rating. What was the thought process behind that? Was that a system that you guys had thought out beforehand, or was that kind of also on the fly? Like, okay, we've had a couple months of community voting, let's try something else. That's what you guys came up with, and it didn't really end up working, or how did that work on the back end?
It was there was some thought behind it. I think one of the first things I remember doing with that was Locktab actually pulled me aside and said, if we're going to do something related to SP, we're going to have to, really think about this because, how much active Kadosu is there in the community at the moment? Like, how many maps are we potentially exposing to scoreboards?
Right.
By allowing this to happen. And I think we crunched the numbers on it. It turned out that was something like, how much? It was like 46,000 Kadosu or something? Some absurdly large amount. That was
present throughout the entirety of the community, or like active users?
Active users in the past 3 months, yeah.
Oh, okay. Right. Interesting. And what was the thought process behind the favorites? Just to, like, kind of throw... Because that puts a lot of the love section, just as much as ranked, into the hands of the modders and mappers. What is the thought process behind that switch? Going from... Because it's kind of a harsh switch, going from entirely community-based, outside of, what was put up for vote, to entirely mapping-based. Or mapper-based, rather.
Yeah, it was a big switch. I think we incorporated the favorites into that to try and give the community some agency again in that regard. They could kind of vote with their favorites and be like, I like this map. I want to see this map in love. And they could, expend an entry in their favorites list and be like, okay, I support this without ever actually having to mod.
Right. You seem like you're really
too low.
Yeah. Okay. You seem like you really want to weigh in.
Favorites did nothing because anyone can attain 30 favorites without any effort, really.
Right.
Star priority is the thing that actually matters, I think.
So you're on the side even of the community there, rather than being on the side of yourself, which would be mapper, right?
Yeah, I like how I have 300 something kudos available to just spend anywhere I want, so I could get 3 maps loved just on my own, and those 30 favorites for each one. You don't need much to get that. You have a popular song, instantly 300 favorites, whatever.
Right. I think there was this one map, it's basically all sliders, and it gets more and more insane throughout, and it's barely passable, and there's just a scoreboard with these. If I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure who the mapper was, but I think that he pushed it through himself entirely based on the amount of Kadosu that he had.
Not entirely.
Largely?
Yoshi, I think.
Okay. Right.
Are you talking about Ikanai Borderline? I think you are, aren't you?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, Blissful Yoshi, and he SP'd it all himself.
Well, not all of it. I think he gave 60 of it. The other 40
pretty much all of it, let's be honest.
I mean, there's maps with 100 from one person, so a big difference.
And that obviously, I'm assuming Ephemeral wasn't intended at all for that to be a thing. Or...
You know what? I'm gonna drop some fire here, and I'm gonna say, yeah, it kind of was.
Okay.
Let's be honest.
Nice.
Based on the reasoning that possibly mappers that had that amount of Kadosu kind of deserved to have that possibility, or?
Yeah, basically. Because, I mean, if you think about it, it's a Kadosu is what, 1 to maybe 2. Let's say 2 is one really long mod post that you spend an hour or 2 doing.
Right.
So you can kind of extrapolate that and be really generous with it and say, 100 Kadosu is what, 50 hours of work? And you put it like that, it doesn't seem so bad to give someone that's sunk 50 hours of work into modding maps the chance to get something of their own rank.
The only problem there is that the loved section isn't really supposed to be for that. Like, I get that that's what you were trying to do, but it wasn't. The way the community views it was not like that.
The way it was positioned with community voting and stuff, it certainly didn't seem like it should be something that was in that category. Yeah, I completely see where you're coming from there. I see where everyone else comes from as well with that.
Right, that's interesting.
Which is what makes it so tricky.
Yeah, I understand both sides. That's interesting. All right. And do you actually feel that the love section ended up being filled with what it was intended for, or over time was it more and more? Because eventually it ended in the hiatus, which I don't know how long ago that really started indefinitely. But what was the reason for you guys to really drop the entirety of the love section for now and just put it on an indefinite hiatus?
Well, yeah, basically. I mean,
really
said it.
No.
Not really. No, not really. I mean, there was a factor in it, but I was setting up the webhook in our internal Discord for Cryptic, who is the QAT in charge of it, and I actually called the webhook for that one Cryptic's Worst Nightmare. It even had like a picture of a scary anime girl on it or something, because I think we used to make jokes internally about love maps being like kind of terrible.
Okay.
In their own way. I think maybe it was a joke. I think I just made that joke, and everyone else kind of laughed along or something.
I think everyone agrees.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. But I was writing that webhook, and by writing it, I meant like copy pasting two things into Discord.
Right.
And I just going through the maps and the backlog of it all, and it wasn't working. It really plainly wasn't working.
Okay. And at some point, you guys just decided, all right, from now on, we're just gonna cut it close, come up with a new idea, which ended in the post of you on the forum saying we're working on a rework of the love section, but for now it's going to be on an indefinite hiatus. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was only like a week ago, wasn't it?
I think it was
maybe 2 weeks ago.
A couple weeks ago, yeah.
What, the love discussion thread? Oh, no. The actual hiatus post. Yeah, no, that was only a few weeks ago. Yeah, it had been on a hiatus for a while. I just decided to post.
Because it wasn't really public. Okay, yeah, right.
The last maps I entered were like June, the beginning of June or something. It was only a couple maps.
Okay.
So, yeah. Like
Pishy, in your personal views from the inception to what eventually were the types of maps that ended up being loved, how did that change your perception over time as to what you expected initially or wanted initially as to what it ended up actually being?
Well, what I expected initially was basically what like the first batch came with.
Right.
A bunch of old maps and I guess some other popular maps, and that's sort of what community voting brought too. Then, whatever the star priority favorites thing, that brought a bunch of other maps that like basically weren't even supposed to be loved. You can say that. There were maps that like people were going for rank, but then they're like, what? I don't know how to rank my maps. I'm just gonna retire it into the love section.
That was a thing on the back end of the mappers.
No,
I mean,
some it was. Some absolutely was.
What happened was you get star priority. Right? Does anyone know what star priority is? Did we explain that? I don't know. Star priority is you get it through like modding maps, and people can like anytime a map is modded, it gets 1 or 2 star priority.
Okay.
Someone can, and that star priority also goes to a mapper, and that mapper can then shoot that star priority onto any other map. Right. So basically, you can get star priority through 2 ways. So what like Ephemeral was saying with the like making love so Kudos has like a point, that was so people could shoot stars and then send maps to love that way. But a lot of maps were just getting loved through the old type of star priority, not the old type, the modding type. Right. Where they'd be getting a bunch of mods on their map and like they don't know where to go because they've gotten 50 mods and then their map still sucks. What are you supposed to do? Yeah, you can't really rank it like that. Right. And so they're like, oh, I've got 75 star priority just from getting a bunch of mods.
Oh, okay. So they would start making a map. A bunch of people would come in modding it, but it ended up still being bad. But their backlog meant they had a lot of star priority to give out. Right. So they would just put it towards it being loved instead?
Not to give out.
Well, to
the star priority
themselves.
went specifically to the map.
Oh, okay. But
So
yeah,
there's a lot of maps, like basically any map, or not, maybe not any map. Most of the maps in the loved section with full difficulty spreads, like easy, normal, hard, all the way wherever they go. Those are probably from mappers who tried to rank their map, then they just sort of gave up. And
right. No, it was very interesting from a player perspective, because I remember the first couple of batches, I would know most of the maps because they were all maps that had been, you know, made over the years that had a lot of popularity, which is interesting anyway. An unrankable or a non-ranked map being popular means it's basically purely through word of mouth.
Right.
Over the years, and then eventually it turned into more and more maps that was like, I've never heard of this. I don't even know who this is necessarily that mapped it, which might be ignorant on my side, but it was an interesting progression from a player perspective as well as a result.
I wouldn't say it's ignorant on your side. It's more like people could just get 30 favorites, and that's all they needed at that point.
Right.
So it was. That's not every loved map, though. There's a lot of like loved maps out there that are just they're what you were expecting. They're cool maps, but there are still many not so loved maps.
Yeah.
Ones that could have definitely gone for ranked, but chose not to for some reason.
Yeah.
And Ephemeral. Okay, so we're kind of caught up to currently, where it went from community voting to star priority and favorites, to currently it being on hiatus for the past 2-3 months. When you posted that there was stuff in the reworks, has there actually been any progress in that area, or has it more been kind of in limbo? On the
It's been
back
in
end?
limbo. I'll just say, I'll be frank straight up. It's been in limbo. I decided to put it on hiatus, essentially.
Right.
Because we had this big internal push for the modding v2 stuff, or beatmap discussions, which is what we called it, which essentially completely overhauls the way Kodosu works. And it seemed a bit pointless to push forward with a system that used Kodosu as a currency when we'd be basically reworking the whole economy of Kodosu anyway in modding v2. So I figured maybe we can put it off until that goes live, and then from there we'll have a better standpoint of how to address the issue. Because I hadn't actually ever considered what Pishy said before, but he's spot on with the whole maps that get the whole 75 SP just from being modded. Normally, like they're usually not that great if they've gotten to that point organically.
Oh,
anyway,
because they have so many mods? Like the fact that they have so many mods probably means they might not be as great?
It's not that. It's that they're mappers who don't really have much experience, and they're like, they don't know how to improve past the point of, like, you can't just get mods to make your map good. Right. You gotta remap and stuff, and you gotta take general advice. Mods can just help you, like, they're not the only thing you can use to get ranked. Right. Okay. That makes sense. And so people don't try to get further than just getting mods. They just get a bunch of mods, and then they're like, I don't know what to do. I'll get loved. How about that? No, that makes sense. And that definitely ended up in a situation that got, well, I wouldn't say abused, but didn't end up in the scenario that you wanted it to initially from the back end. So you say Mod V2 is what you're currently waiting for to be rolled out because it'll kind of rewrite how Kodosu and Star Priority is going to be used. Do you guys have any timeline for that on the back end at all?
For modding V2?
I like modding V2.
For modding V2, well, I mean, we originally said the end of August, and it's technically the end of August now, but this isn't going to be one of those Laser 2018 release things. It is actually, like, almost done, and it's like done to the point where we could flip the switch on it. And I believe, but don't quote me on this, but I believe that Peppy wants to do that sometime within the next fortnight or 2 weeks. So, short term. Okay. Hopefully.
And do you guys have already any plans for how do you utilize the new economy regarding Kodosu and Star Priority, or are you more like, we'll see how it goes, and then based on that, formulate a plan on how to use that?
Well, there's a thing in modding V2. You can title your mods as suggestions, problems, or praises. And praises are kind of like the holy shit, this map is good, you know, Lord of Triangles, all hell, PP, that kind of thing, right?
No idea what you're talking about there.
I know.
I'm joking. You know what I'm talking about. It's the kind of post you see on... It's the post you see on modding forums. It's just like, you know, the 2-line things in a forum post, someone saying, map good, I like, that kind of thing. Praises,
no, I gotcha.
People saying, I like this.
I was referring to Lord of Triangles.
Yeah, you know, the typical meme crap. Oh, I probably shouldn't have said that, should I? Oh dear.
You've lost the entire audience now.
Oh, everyone's
Well,
leaving.
they deserve it after not picking up who that special song was at the start. Can't believe these people, honestly. Anyway,
yeah.
where was that?
Okay.
That's right, praises. Yeah, praises exist and they're quantifiable, so we can go, you know, a map that gets a lot of praises, you know, maybe it can be loved because people like it if they're putting praises on it, obviously. So you can go, you know, you need a certain number of praises and they'll substitute a certain number of Kudosu or something, and then you can get your map loved. But it'll be like a really high cutoff though.
Because then you have more of a community input, well, mapper community input on what actually gets loved.
It's like the replacement for favorites, sort of.
Yeah, yeah. It's favorites, but with more visibility. Instead of just someone clicking a button, they click a button and write something as well.
Oh, so the praises would also be from the community itself. Sorry, I missed that part.
Oh yeah, anyone, not just mappers.
Okay.
Or anyone
Gotcha.
can leave a praise. So.
Okay. All right. So
that's one potential avenue we could explore there. Absolutely.
Right. Okay. So for now, it seems obvious that it's probably going to have to wait at least until that's out for, say, a month plus before you guys reevaluate how to go from here.
Yeah, probably. As I imagine there'll be some teething issues with modding V2 because it's a pretty comprehensive overhaul of how modding's done. It's going to take a lot of people a lot of getting used to, I think. Right. So after we've gotten over those initial humps of it, I think we'll start to explore loved. Maybe even sooner. I don't know, honestly. Like, it's hard to say how it'll go.
Do you have any initial spontaneous thoughts on that, Pishy? Regarding what Ephemeral just elaborated on?
I'm thinking about modding V2, like, just when is it, or when can everything be switched to modding V2? Because that's just all I want right now.
Okay.
Very, very off topic, yeah.
All right. Okay. So would you say that that probably opens up an avenues to make for a better system on how to approach loved? Or would that take a lot more thought on your side to really formulate
if we're going to be
ideas?
taking into mapper, if we're going to be taking into account mapper like opinions, we'd have to be thinking of how the kudos system works. I don't really know how the kudos system is going to work there. Okay. I heard it's going to be like whatever. There's like a thumbs up button for each mod.
Yeah,
thumbs up a mod, and like that's the equivalent of kudos, and then everything about kudos is going to be scaled up or something.
Is that public info on your side, Ephemeral, that you could possibly elaborate on?
It's kind of, I'm not actually fully certain myself how it works, to be honest. But I believe it is meant to be upvote based. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. I don't really know how that's going to scale properly. So if we want mappers to have like an opinion on that, then I don't know. If we're just going with like general community, then praises would deal with that.
Right.
But if we're splitting it up like mappers, players, then
so Ephemeral, if I'm understanding correctly, basically the end game, because the initial batch was community voting, which largely favored the community, then the second system largely favored mappers. Am I correct in assuming that the eventual system that you guys want to reach is the joint efforts of those two, of both equal input for mappers as well as community, or do you still feel like one should have more say than the other? In whatever the system ends up being.
From a systems perspective, as in like, you know, considering like us as a game or as a platform,
right?
It probably needs to be somewhere in the middle. It needs to have equal input from both sides, I'd say. But personally speaking, I honestly feel like the mapping and modding community really need a little bit, you know, of a nudge, I guess, or something to be able to work towards, I guess. And I feel like Loved kind of fits that bill, but you know, I think that may be an opinion that just I have at the moment.
Right. So, what do you feel about that, Pishy?
Feel about what exactly?
Well, obviously you're mappers, or you're on that side, but do you feel that in terms of the love section, what it intends to be and what it intends to promote, if it should favor mappers and modding's opinion, or community, or in the middle?
Probably community. I mean, I'd like to have a say in things personally as a mapper, but you know, I don't really care about love maps.
That's interesting. Okay.
The community cares more about love maps than I do.
Right.
Than I guess most mappers do right now.
That's interesting. Yeah, no, I feel where you're coming from in that regard, because Loved, at least to me as a player, initially when it came out, I was really excited for it because it would allow for a lot of maps to have a scoreboard that mappers might either scoff at, like say Arlie's maps, which I personally love to play. A lot of mappers, to my understanding, kind of scoff at that style. I remember reading some comment somewhere of you saying that was not a good map, or in one of mapper, or in one of your videos, something like not good maps, and then it had a little Arlie's part in the background. So I was really excited for those types of maps personally.
Do mappers like want to associate themselves with those kind of maps and be like, hey, community, you like these maps, how about you like these other maps that are completely different, but they're good to a mapper? I don't think community would appreciate both of them equally.
Right. No, I agree. Having been an Osu player for the past 9 years, I feel that over time, at least currently where the system is at, it favors mappers' opinions over what people want. And I've watched your video on, I don't remember which exactly it was, I think it was QAT, and the process there as to when which system favored whose input.
What,
doesn't ring a bell? No.
QAT something? I don't think I've made a video about QAT specifically. If you're talking about like the loved video I made whenever that came out.
Okay, scrap that thought entirely.
Okay.
All right.
And the stats getting
sure.
Okay, well, regardless, I feel like we covered our bases there. We'll go on to some community questions. We have 5 lined up, which to some extent might have already been answered. Looking back, do you think the current love system is an improvement on the old one? Ephemeral. I think we've partially already addressed that.
Oh boy. I don't know. The more I think about this one, the more uncertain it is in my head, if I'm honest. I don't know. Like, I can really see where people like want it to be what it was when we announced it, the whole community voting thing, that kind of stuff.
Right.
But at the same time, like, I have this overwhelming drive to just see some sort of open category where, because I host the Aspire contest, I have a really soft spot for this kind of avant-garde mapping bullshit that like the top 0.2% of people can play, but it looks cool and it's visceral, and I love that stuff, and I really wanted to see Loved as an avenue for that, personally anyway.
How do you feel that Love ties into long-term, possibly a system where basically any map that wants a scoreboard gets a scoreboard? How do you think that ties into the whole thing? Or is that not necessarily talked about back end? Or would that be terrible in your opinion, Fishy?
I think that would just devalue leaderboards completely. It's like
to some degree, yeah.
How many maps are in the graveyard? Like
a lot.
Thousands. I don't know. There's way too many.
Hundreds of thousands.
Even if that would be a category that would not gain you any PP or any value outside of just the scoreboard.
Most graveyard maps no one's plays, so there's gonna be like a billion maps with three people playing them. That's it.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
It's gonna be really lame.
Okay,
and then you have to think of the infrastructure required to host those scoreboards. It's not free.
No, which obviously I have no view on, but it's always interesting to hear the opinions regarding stuff like that. Because I'm sure that
propose that to Pepe, and I'm pretty sure he'd go pale at the thought of it.
Because I'm sure that's for a lot of players that don't necessarily get involved with mapper stuff or modding stuff. I mean, that seems like on the surface like a good idea, but I definitely understand the back end would be an absolute disaster.
Leaderboards like a reward though, so you can't just like give them to everyone.
Right, that makes sense.
What's the point of going for
and less special.
Less special. I agree with that. Do you think
it's so hard to get to like already? You don't want to make it like less of a reward.
That's true. Yeah, because mapping takes a lot of effort, so having the reward of having it ranked definitely. Okay, no, I can totally see where you're coming from. Do you think that playability should be a criteria in the loved section?
No.
No?
Opinion.
Nope.
Like no opinion or just a no?
No. No. I mean, it should not be a factor because there's a lot of cool maps that are not super playable, I guess. Such as the Blissful Yosi. Or that one's playable to some
moderately
degree,
playable.
It's not playable to me!
Like what type of stuff are you referring to? Like there's the one extreme which is Centipede, and then there's the other like moderately playable such as Graces of Heaven.
Oh, Centipede! Ugh, fuck no.
Yeah.
Right.
Maps where there's no point to having a leaderboard because you can't pass them are just dumb. But maps that are just really hard, I guess, might as well.
Yeah, I agree completely there.
Okay.
So I mean, if you're playing Centipede, you're just basically going.
You're not playing Centipede.
Even the point. Like you just,
that's how I generally play anyway. You wouldn't hear the difference. Okay, but would you say that there should be a cutoff to the point where it's just like, because Centipede, something like Centipede took a ton of effort, I'm sure, from a mapper.
It was a script, I think.
Was it actually?
Oh,
I think.
Oh,
so.
Interesting. Okay.
Or it had script elements, and I know there was a guy called Fox PH0X who created a visualizer script that placed beatmaps,
Interesting.
beat notes, whatever. Oh god, I cannot into English anymore. But yeah, no, there was a couple of people that have done it over the years. At 9:30 a.m. now.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Okay.
Oh no.
That's interesting. All right, so it would largely depend on just the quality of the map, which is not necessarily synonymous with playability, in your opinion.
It has to be not a visualization, I guess, and it's okay.
Right.
You know, I'm thinking back. There's one map actually that it's loved right now. There's no one on the leaderboards because you can't pass it because it's got the auto fail thing or whatever.
Oh, one of the 2B maps probably.
Yeah, I don't know.
2E Mars, one of.
I don't know if that should be allowed because I mean they included another difficulty that's the same thing without the part that like destroys everything. But they just wanted to get exposure to that cool thing in the map, I guess. I don't know. If that's a terrible thing.
It was up to me. They'd fix the auto fail bug, and then we could get 2B ranked. That'd be nice.
Yeah,
I'd love to see that happen.
Why does that even? Do you
hey,
know
boss, if you're watching,
is that like an intentional thing though? To have it fail because of 2B?
No, it's not. It's oh god, I think one of the devs sat down and tried to debug that a long time ago, and I think I was watching him in the internal chat, and it was just a descent into insanity. Like, it's
he's so still not okay. He's still in his channel by himself.
I think he quit shortly afterwards, if I'm honest. Like, it's another reason why we're like pushing for laser as well, because the old code is just, oh my god, man, I don't even know. I can't even comprehend how to fix anything in that code base. I'm not a particularly good developer, man. Like, you can see why they're pushing so hard with laser if you've seen it. That's all I'm going to say.
All right. Interesting. Okay. Would you ever consider splitting Loved into more than one category? So to kind of have an overlapping solution for all the directions that Loved could go. For example, community favorites, stuff that's quality but unrankable, stuff that's not necessarily passable, whatever those categories would end up being.
I don't know about that.
That's
honestly.
A tough one. I agree that because that takes a lot of thought.
I mean, well, how can we handle all those categories exactly? We're not handling one category Loved very well. Right. So having like 3 of them, I feel like just spreading yourself too thin might not be the best idea.
Okay.
Systemic support or none at all in my eyes, honestly.
Right.
Like, you need to have some sort of concrete like game system that's not run by people.
Right.
Something that was like, yes, this is how you get into this category, and it's all automatic. If something like that existed, sure, but it doesn't at the moment. So
as long as there's no system implementation that makes Loved run smoothly on a back end, you're saying that you wouldn't really consider splitting it up, just to.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. I probably wouldn't even waste time on something like that because we've seen how it works out.
Yeah, no, I think it sounds like one of those really cool ideas on the surface, but then once you start thinking about the actual practicality, it's like, no, that's that's opening Pandora's box. It's too many loose ends.
Yeah, it's like too contingent on one person as well. Like if I disappeared or whatever, like who would host the votes, for instance, if it was, relied on Love, if we were going back to the old Love system or whatever, like,
right.
I don't know. Like to do that with 3 or 4 categories more would just be,
Have you at all talked to Peppy and the team about system implementation? Oh, I just realized the music stopped entirely. Have you on the back end talked to Peppy at all regarding possible system implementation of the Loved category?
I mentioned a couple of things to him in passing, but honestly, I know his core focus is on laser, and I'm hesitant at all to push anything legacy, like referring to legacy as the base game, for instance, because there's really no point implementing it in like the current website and the current features when we've got the new site coming up anyway. We may as well just do it all there.
Right.
It's a matter of months until we start to phase over to that kind of stuff, hopefully. So I don't know.
Hopefully.
I can kind of see why he's really reluctant to do things like that. Yeah, hopefully. There's been a lot of progress on it lately too, so I'm optimistic.
All right, D2 is going to be on the new website. We're getting pretty close for mappers, at least.
That's cool.
I'll
Yeah,
be really
also,
excited to see that going.
I think if you open any type of news link, it also goes to the new website. That's all.
Yep.
That's all pretty cool. It looks really good. Now
It has cut so much time off of me.
the question that we're probably least familiar with. Why are the non-meta key counts in Osumania limited to loved? So I remember that being stuff like 3 key to stuff like 10 key. Which was a question that was very highly upvoted.
Right. Well, I'm not a Mania player, but I mean, I asked Mania people, and they said, or I mean, I asked the Mania ranking criteria guys.
Right.
Earlier, yesterday. They said more than 4 or less than 4 like isn't much of a rhythm game, basically.
Okay.
Who are they to say that?
I mean,
They're not my dad.
There are rhythm games with other like 3 and lower.
I understand what. Yeah, it makes sense.
About 10 and up, I don't really know. I mean, I think there was like.
Maybe it's just not been on the radar necessarily.
I think it's just not possible in OC right now.
Oh,
there's like some co-op thing in
right.
In the end, I don't really know how it works, so I'm not gonna even try.
I don't even know what a mania is, so I'm just going off.
A Mania.
A Mania. That's one way.
I've never
That's one way to avoid the question
games.
Ephemeral. No, I'm joking. No.
I seriously don't know. I have no idea. I'm so sorry. I feel like I should know, but I have no clue. I can ask. I can find out, I guess. I'm not sure there's system reasons for it. I think a 1 to 3k work all okay. I think.
Well, the person that asked was Tatatat. So, you know, if you ever were to find out, I'm sure he would love to know.
I mean, I know 1 key, 2 key, and 3 key are in the editor right now, so they're possible.
Yeah,
They're
just
possible.
not
I don't see
rankable.
why.
Right.
I don't see why not.
Because 1 key at least is kind of stupid.
You say that now, and then you got people that are going to be vibrating that stuff like crazy. Are there any, or rather, has there ever been any ideas for maps that kind of fall between the cracks between ranked and loved? Which kind of
like
it's
was supposed to do that.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah.
Graveyard.
Based on the conversation we've been having, I feel the same way.
Just like we have more cracks now.
Right, exactly. Which then the question of would you consider splitting loved into more categories would address that, but again, as we just discussed, that wouldn't necessarily work out in practice. But there's
if we were to ever do that, I think it would probably be to use the approval category again, because that exists.
Right.
And it's a thing.
I remember, yeah. Way back. How long has that been out of commission for?
I don't know, and I've never understood it. Like, it always seemed kind of perfect for that kind of bill.
I mean,
in my eyes.
Fishy had
the last
feedback, I feel.
The last like fancy map to be in there was from end of 2012. Fancy as in
End of
like
2012.
Gimmicky map. Or
Wow.
whatever. Since then, it's just used for like marathons, but it stopped being used for marathons for a while, so it's kind of weird.
Interesting.
It shouldn't even exist at this point.
It's still there,
I mean,
though. It's still...
It shouldn't be on the website, at least. It should just
I
be
know.
ranked and approved.
I feel like maybe there's some sort of miscommunication there as to why we're not using it, because I feel like we should. Like, we should repurpose it for something.
How does it differ from the loved section in that regard? How were maps determined to be approved rather than ranked?
It does, or I mean, it does differ, but
In what sense?
The first like approval was very similar to loved.
Oh,
Very similar.
okay.
Like the same kind of maps.
Right.
Maps that couldn't be ranked for whatever reason, yeah.
For whatever reason, didn't have to have difficulty spread requirements, that kind of thing. I think that was a major part of approval, if I recall right. Was during my time, anyway. But yeah,
I mean, approval still kind of exists. Marathons are called approval maps, but they're not like put into the approval section. So,
Was it put out of commission based on Score V1?
I don't know. I think it just faded.
No, it wasn't.
No, that was unrelated. Score V2 and
It
Score
was
V1.
unrelated, yeah.
Interesting.
It was QAT BAT policy that basically pardon me,
I mean-
that decommissioned it.
No, it stopped before the split thing happened.
Interesting.
It stopped
Okay.
in like February of.
God, that is a
2014.
good question. What did stop it?
What happens
Something.
to approved?
crap.
We'll never know. It's like a
No
missing
idea.
persons case.
I'm scared now. I should know this.
All right. Well, yeah. As we honestly expected, we didn't expect the loved talk to go for an hour. We've been going for nearly 45 minutes, which, you know, because we kind of tried to see if we could fetch any other like related topics into loved, but you know, when you're done talking about something, you're done talking about something. And,
Are you comfortable polling the Twitch chat just so I know this isn't actually a recording and we're actually like live? Maybe they've got some questions we can answer or something.
We can give that a whirl. If you have any questions, you can throw them in chat. We'll see if anything proper floats by, so to speak. Because we have the idea of the coffee hour was obviously to have it for an hour.
Yeah.
And to drink coffee.
Well, he's at the water.
Transparent
I'm in the
coffee.
beer. What are you having? Nothing.
I'm not answering that question, but still, I didn't advertise the fact.
You can just say coffee. I can't prove you wrong. Let's see. We're reading the chat. So. Oh, you can't? You're just staring lovingly into the camera.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Fishy, do you have any favorite love beat maps? I'm interested myself.
Favorite loved beat maps. I mean, I like Mazarin's maps. The ones that were there for, like, the first batch.
Do you actually?
I do. I mean,
interesting.
Is it? I don't play them.
Do you
but,
actually like Mazarin's maps?
I like, what was it? One that I'd like recommended to go to loved. Hanser's Wonderful World. Is that in Love now, actually? I don't even know.
I'm not sure.
I don't think it was, actually, no.
Huh. Some that come to mind for me are the Arlie's maps, Burnt Rice.
Oh, Burnt, yeah. I mean,
Zappy.
Handsome's got 3 maps in there. Just
is Zappy in Loved, or did that actually get ranked? I think it actually got ranked. Zappy's maps.
I think some are in there, yeah. I don't really like his maps, though.
Oh, really? They're kind of old school.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, another... Sorry, go ahead.
No, go on.
I was going to ask the most important question of the hour, Pishy. Why am I and why is Peppy on your wall?
They're not here. What are you talking about?
You can't
well,
you can't get...
You know, you got such an exciting background behind you.
It's yarn. It's not my room.
It's exciting. It is exciting. I've got a white wall.
I got a bunch of yarn.
You need something here.
All right. I got a Rugrat.
Fills the entire screen.
All right, gotcha. It was really funny. We were setting up the coffee hour, and he turned on this camera, and out of completely no context, that was on the wall.
Yeah.
So that was interesting.
I understand how that's a little weird. It's art, you see. It's mapping.
Let's see. Yeah, I'm not seeing any... Sorry, what?
Hmm?
Did the call just die?
No.
No, we're still here.
Hello?
Oh, you're not alone.
That was terrifying.
Oh, you're
It was like
good.
10 seconds of silence. I thought I was dead.
I think that every morning. I think we're good. I mean, there's only so many questions that we can go over regarding one category, being loved. So I'm going to go ahead and say thank you so much, Pishy, for joining us and giving your thoughts. Ephemeral, I would love to have a short summary of what we can expect from your side regarding loved from now until hopefully when we can re-expect something related to loved.
I think at the barest minimum, I think what we can do is kind of pull the hiatus away from the community voting and maybe start that again. I think we can do that.
Well,
like
after the new modding system, or
before it comes in. I think we could hold one more round maybe just to tide people over. But I'm not sure how we'll choose the maps for those because picking the maps for the polls is always a bit of a contentious issue.
Right. I think honestly, especially given that we've talked about it, I think it would be really cool to have another either round of community voting or something. I mean, people are obviously loving, no pun intended, the section as a whole. And people are really excited to see more of it. It's a shame that it went into a hiatus, even though it's very understandable because it's super tough to find a correct system. But yeah. So soon, TM?
Yeah, soon TM. Let's go with that.
All right, 2020 it is, boys. That's gonna be it.
2021.
Fishy, thank you again so much for being on.
No problem.
And for adding some animation to the scene. Ephemeral, thank you so much for staying up until 9 to 10 in the morning. and giving us some back-end context.
Very much. Very welcome for my back end.
appreciate you guys being on. I'm gonna go ahead and switch scenes, turn up the tunes a little bit. Thank you guys again. All right, ladies and gents. Again, there's only so much to talk about per category, per conversation. Shouldn't overstretch it. I hope that this at least gave you guys some context regarding, you know, how it came to be to where it is now and to the future. I'm personally really excited. I personally feel that the love section is an awesome addition, still is an awesome addition. Just needs some figuring out going into the future. But if we trust Mr. Ephemeral, which I'm inclined to, we can expect something fairly soon. I hope you guys had a good hour, good 48 minutes to be exact. I'm gonna go ahead and finish the rest of my Imperial Stout. I did great in pacing. Lasted an hour. That's a good amount of time. Oh God, no pressure. No pressure at all. No pressure at all. Just soon, TM, Mr. Ephemeral. Thank you guys for watching. I'm gonna play some tunes. And we'll be back in about 2 weeks. Have a wonderful time, guys. See you guys around.